In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please do be seated. Now, what I have here on the stand is not my sermon. Rather, it's a map of where I intend to go in this sermon. And I have it up there just in case I get lost. So if I suddenly dart over here, it's because I got lost and I need to find my way back wherever I was again. And if suddenly you see me spending all my time over here, addressing the folk over here, it's because I'm getting a better response over here than over here. Just so you'll know, I always like to give people a heads up as to what to expect. You see, because I realize that you don't know who I am any more than I know who you are. So you might be wondering, why is this person doing this? So I always like to let people know. And I like this headset as well because this is my mute switch. It works really well. And I was concerned because, I might blow my nose during the service and I don't want that coming up to the speaker. This works. That works really, really well. Well, now, just so you'll know, these last 3 minutes of me jabbering on do not count as part of the sermon. I also like to let people know when the sermon has actually begun, so they can start timing from that point. You see, but until I say it's actually started, then all I'm doing is jabbering on. You see, and I can jabber on a long time, believe me. Now then, so it's good to be with you here at San Miguel de Allende. I do have Bishop Carlos Duce Porter's permission to celebrate here in Mexico, because I don't need his permission to give a sermon in Mexico, but I need his permission to celebrate in Mexico, you see. Because as a bishop of the church, I cannot go into another bishop's diocese without that person's permission to actually celebrate. Okay, so I do have his permission, and Bishop Carlos and I are friends, and being the Bishop of Utah, he and I have a relationship because Utah and Mexico, Diocese of Mexico, are in a companion diocese relationship. Okay, still not the sermon. Now, also greetings to you from the Reverend Canon Pablo Ramos, Padre Pablo, who evidently had been in San Miguel de Allende for some time, and he asked that we send greetings to you when we got here. So greetings from Pablo, and he is doing well. He is my canon for Latino ministries, and he oversees the Latino congregations, of which we have 3 in the Diocese of Utah. And Amy, my wife, and I are here in San Miguel in order to take an intensive course in Spanish. And I am doing that. We are doing this for 1 month, and so I asked Bill Gray, a.k.a. Bishop William, if he wanted me to supply while I was in San Miguel, and he said, sure. He said, I'm not going to be there, but go ahead. Okay, so now we've gone past the beginning, and now we'll actually get into the sermon. Okay, start your watches now. So here we go. The season of Easter, lasts for how many days? No, 50. Lent is 40 days. Hence the hymn, 40 days and 40 nights. But Easter is a season of 50 days, and Pentecost is the 50th day. Okay. You didn't know you were going to get a quiz, did you? You see? So Pentecost is the 50th day, and we are now on the 6th Sunday of Easter. And we have Ascension Day and the 7th Sunday of Easter, and then we'll have Pentecost. Okay. Now then, the season of Easter in the church, the season of Easter is meant to accomplish something for the people of the congregation of the church. And what the season of Easter is meant to do is to instruct the people of the congregation what it means to be Easter people, or people of the resurrection. That's the purpose of it. So the great celebration is on Easter Sunday when people come to church. Those who come twice a year, maybe on a baptism Sunday as well, if their child is getting baptized. But Easter Sunday is the great celebration, and many people think that once that's over, we're done with Easter in the same way that Christmas happens, and then we have a few Sundays of Christmas. So during the season of Easter, what we are meant to be exploring is what does it mean to be people who have benefited from the resurrection, as all of us have since the resurrection happened a long time before we were born. In that way, all of us are always Easter people, even in the season of Lent, because Easter took place all those years ago. But Easter specifically is meant to talk about that piece, what it means to be a people of the resurrection. Because frankly, if we can't answer that question, i.e., well, what difference does the resurrection mean for you and for me as we live in this world, other than we hold fire insurance, you say? What does it mean on a day-to-day basis for you and for me? If the answer is nothing, we might as well just quit. You see? Because if that's all it is, then all we're doing is saying a bunch of words. That's it. So, what in the world is this whole thing with Easter and being the people of the resurrection? Now, in the gospel lesson today, what we have is Jesus speaking with his disciples and saying to his disciples that they should do what? They should love one another, love one another, and he will demonstrate what he says, as I have loved you. However, he hasn't demonstrated really what that means quite yet. See, he will demonstrate what that means when he goes to the cross. But at that point in time, it doesn't really have the full meaning. That will only come later when he goes to the cross. Okay? Now, and he says that if we do his commands, if we follow his commands, then he will be our friend. Right? That's what it says. So in other words, in order to have Jesus as your friend, you have to do what he commands. Now, let's say I went as the bishop of the diocese and said to my priests, if you want to be my friend, you'll wash my car every Saturday and do what I command you to do. And if you want to be my friend, whenever I come to visit your congregation, you'll have a splendid dinner in my honor. If you want to be my friend. Now, you think about that for just a moment. Because I'm commanding you as the bishop, if you're going to be my friend, you're going to do these things. And if you don't do these things, well, you're not going to be my friend. And you're going to be in trouble as well. So you see where I'm getting at when Jesus commands. He said, well, you follow my command, and I'll be your friend. And if you've ever read that, as I have done, then you're going to say, gosh, what kind of friend is that? You're only going to be my friend if I do what you tell me to do? Well, when Jesus tells his disciples that he'll be their friend if they do what he commands, then we better look at what he commands. And as you said, what he commands is that they should love each other. Now that is different than me telling my priest, commanding them to wash my car. And also, it's different than me saying, if you don't do this, you're in trouble, which is coercion. You see? Subjugation and coercion and hierarchical structure. Jesus doesn't include that when he talks about being his friend. In fact, he defines for his disciples what it means to be his friend. And what it means, he says, is you will know what I'm doing. You'll know what I'm doing. In other words, there's not going to be any secrets between you and me. It's not going to be, I'm going to tell you to do this and then not say why you need to do this. Okay? Because in a hierarchical structure like I described, I can command my priests to do whatever. It doesn't mean they're going to do it, mind you, but I can command them and not tell them why. You see? Because I could say, hey, I'm the bishop, you're not. You just do what I tell you, all right? See? Jesus says, no, you're my friends, and therefore you will know what I'm doing. Again, that hierarchical sort of structure, coercion and subjugation is gone. He's going to inform them about what he's doing and what he's all about. Which is good for you and me as people of the resurrection, because therefore we know what he's about, don't we? And the answer would be, well, do we really? Do we really? And the answer is, well, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And perhaps then, I should say to you what he's really about. Okay? So, what Jesus is about is, and what he's doing is, and trying to do is, through us is, to save the world. You see? That's what he's about. He's trying to save the world. And the question would be then, save the world from what? Save the world from what? And the answer we would give in the church would be sin and death, damnation, hell. And my response to that is, oh God, not again. Not again. We've had enough of that in the church. In fact, that very way of preaching has driven more people away from the church than it's brought people in. But it's a good church answer. I mean, it's not a bad church answer. I mean, really would come right down to it. However, if it's just left at that level, then the problem we have is, well, nobody really, well, A, it doesn't come across, and B, we're not really saying what it means. So, let's rephrase this. When we're saying that Jesus would save us and wants to save the world from sin and death, what he's really saying, to put it in my language, would be, he's trying to save the world from us. From us. That's what he's trying to save the world from. From us. And in order to save the world from us, he gives the command to love each other. To love. To be the friend of Jesus means to love. And to be obedient to love. Because what he's doing is he's trying to save the world. John 3:16, God so loved the world. Not just the people in church. Everybody. Everybody. So if he's trying to save the world from us, then we need to understand the way of the world and how the world operates, you see. If loving each other and loving people is the way to save the world, then obviously the world operates differently than that. And by the way, if you think for just a moment that, oh no, the world operates on love, then I don't know what planet you're on. Because there's too much evidence to the contrary. As I said in the earlier service, I think in my studies of history, the books I've read says that in the whole entire history of humanity, there's only been like 3 months when the world wasn't at war somewhere, somehow. That's pretty sad when you think about it. The people have been killing each other for this or that reason for the entire history of humanity for one reason or another, and certainly that's true today. So how does this work? How does this work? Well, if you're from the United States, and I know some of you are visiting from the U.S. right now, just as I am, but if you're visiting from the U.S., then right now in the United States of America, there are a number of people, quite a number actually, who are quite fearful. In fact, I've got 3 congregations of people who are very fearful right now. They're the Latino congregations. And they are fearful because, well, they're afraid that someone's going to come and arrest them. Or they'll be in a restaurant and someone's going to say to them, go back where you came from, and possibly shoot them, which has happened in the U.S. Go back where you came from, and they kill the person. Imagine you who live here in San Miguel Allende, then you're from the States, if that happened to you. Imagine that. One of my very last act before I left Utah to come to San Miguel Allende, we had the Diocesan Convention, but one of my last official acts was to give to Pablo Ramos, to make possible for Pablo to have $750 to get a person from his congregation out of prison because they've been detained. It's the last thing I did before I left. Because the way the world operates is this. In order to keep people together, you need to find an enemy. You need to find someone to blame for your troubles. Doesn't mean they're guilty. You just need to find somebody to blame. Now, if you went to school, I'm sure grade school, you probably even saw this operative in grade school, where one kid gets picked on for no good reason whatsoever, just because. But everyone simply decides this person is going to get it. Well, you elevate that higher to a city or a country, you isolate a certain group of people or peoples and say, these are the reasons why we're in such trouble here. If we just get rid of them, we'll be better off. And if you elevate that, as we have throughout history, to the sacred level, to the ritualistic level of religion, oh my goodness, what you can do with that. Oh my goodness. The kind of violence and hatred you can do with that, if you put God into the mix and make it sacred violence. Oh my goodness, what you can do with that. And oh my goodness, it's been done over and over again. In the United States of America right now, we have people who are claiming that God wants you to have an assault rifle. Because God must have written the Constitution, inspired the Constitution, so God wants you to have a rifle. That's what God wants. In other words, let's just put the sacred into this mix and ritualize it. And boy, do we have trouble then. And this is the way the world works. You can call it scapegoating. Now, Jesus was put on the cross and he was scapegoated. You see, they wanted to get rid of this fellow because politically speaking, he was a troublemaker for them. So they hang him on the cross and kill him. And what we're supposed to learn from this, and Jesus goes willingly to the cross, and what we're supposed to learn from the crucifixion, you can talk about the atonement to make one with God, but what we're supposed to learn from that, the crucifixion, is not this is the way we get forgiven our sins, but we're supposed to look at that crucifixion and say, isn't this horrible? Isn't this horrible what we can do to an innocent person? Isn't this terrible? This is what we can do to to an innocent person, and then we're supposed to learn from that and turn away from it and say, no more of this. No more of this. We've done it. We don't need to do it again. No more of this. That's the crucifixion. To teach the depth of our capacity for evil and violence, and to look at it in all of its horror and ugliness, and then turn away from it and say, no more, no more, no more. What Jesus is trying to do is to save the world through us. And he commands us to love, because that would be the opposite. And so when we talk about discernment now, then the question of discernment is, how do I best bring God's healing into this world? That's the discernment question. For a congregation, the question of discernment is, how do we as a congregation best bring God's healing into the community in which we reside? How do we do that best corporately? What does that look like as a congregation? See, individually, it means, how do I best bring God's healing into this world with the people that I'm associated with, that I have a sphere of influence with? Hence, I'm here in Mexico. Why? To learn Spanish. Why? Because I've got 3 Latino congregations and I can't talk with them without a translator. So, if I go to visit this person who's been in prison, detained, or that person's family, I need a translator with me so I can be with them. And I'd rather be able to be with them and converse with them without needing another person. Because when we say Jesus came to us as a human person, well, that's what he did. He didn't need a translator. And for you and for me, perhaps, then, it's important to find a way where we can best do this. For some, that may be learning Spanish, like me. You see? That's the question of discernment. How do I best bring God's healing into this world? Because God is about the business of trying to save us. To save us. So, what does it mean to be a people of Easter? Then, a people of the resurrection. Since that is what we are, and that's what we learned during the season of Easter. Well, what it means is to be the people who understand that God's trying to save us, and to help God in that. Because, frankly, I don't know how to tackle the big problems. I don't know how to end world hunger. I don't know how to cure the environment. I sure as heck don't know how to work in the United States of America with the present political system, except going to testify in the legislature as I do. I don't know how to do all these things because the problems are much more complex, frankly, than my mind can really figure out. But I do know that if there's a person who's hungry, you feed them. If there's a person in prison, you go visit them. If there's a person that needs a glass of water, you give them a glass of water. Feed a hungry person and save the world. Visit someone in prison who's lonely and save the world. Learn to speak Spanish and save the world. That's Easter.